Are you ready? Stop. Okay, what I want to know is how long was it between when you read Pieces of a Woman, like when you read the script, signing on, and then getting onto set? Like, what time frame did that happen in?
It was actually weirdly quick. A meeting with Sam and Ashley Levinson, who were producing it, and they sort of sent me the script because I was saying I was just like looking for something a bit like Women Under the Influence, you know? Just I was like dying to do something that actually really required like a lot. And they sent me the script, and I read it in an hour, and straight away I was like, I just love it. It's rare when you read a script and you're just like, I just know, I just really believe in this, and I just feel like it needs to be told somehow. And so the director was in Budapest, and I flew back to London, then flew to him just to be in front of him, just to say I love this, and I feel like I understand it. I don't know why. And then that was maybe August, September, and so we started shooting. We rehearsed a little bit in October, and we started end of November. So what about you? Because when you got the call, right, for Mank, did you just get the phone call?
It was one of those phone calls that was like, David Fincher is going to be doing this movie called Mank about Herman Mankiewicz. Okay, I don't know Herman Mankiewicz. That's exciting. What's it about? It's, a black and white movie. It's his next movie. He's set it up with Netflix. And I'm like, okay, what about it? Well, he's considering you. I was like, okay, that's wow. Wow. He knows who I am. He clearly knows my work. He wouldn't be considering me otherwise. And then I got the script like the next week, and then I was flying out there like maybe a month later. It was just as quick, actually. You're saying August? Probably got the call in September and started in late October rehearsing. All the preparation had been done for 30 years apparently, with David Fincher and directing a movie that his father Jack Fincher wrote. So I just climbed on board. I wasn't part of the development as much as I imagine you were. And that movie was already, it hit the ground running way before I became involved.
I need a favor, but you're gonna have to promise you won't laugh.
Given the state of the world, a tall order.
You're gonna. I just know you are.
I have got such a hangover right now. There's just a fighting chance I won't.
I'm being burned at the stake, and I am dying for a ciggy boo. There.
And so did you do loads of like Marion Davis research? Did you like watch all her stuff? Like, because it's weird playing a real person, isn't it? Because you're like, oh, it's that weird fine line between is it about impersonating them? Not really. Is it about how do I represent who they were? And
First of all, like, thank God for the scripts. Like, I'm getting a lot from the writing, of course, and that's where you start usually, if it's that good and that clear, that where what the story is and what that person means to the story. And then I just had to watch a lot of her movies just to feel her, to feel like I'm in the room with her a little more, because I didn't really know much about. I knew of her. I knew her name. And so there's an autobiography that is hilarious, taken from memories. She had been interviewed much later in life, about a decade before she died, and it was just her recalling her life, which is amazing. She clearly had a good time. And then there's a biography written by somebody else, and you collect all these things as much as you can find, and then you're like, well, let's pull the essence out of it, right?
work out what the actual essence is rather than try and copy anything. Or it's a different thing, I think, isn't it?
I find that the people that we're playing are so much more like us than we thought, or than maybe even that I hoped. Or maybe that's just, I don't know what it is as an actor. Maybe I'm just projecting myself onto Marion, and maybe that's why it feels like we're so similar, because everything, of course, the stories differ from person to person, and you try to find those common denominators and how they characterize these people.
You're blinding in the movie is because you kind of seamlessly become someone else, There's no artifice to it. It's so innate. It comes from the inside out. I think that's why it's so interesting in how you approach playing someone real, because you avoided every danger zone, You just were her.
It's so complicated though, playing somebody real. at some point you just have to, let the director take responsibility sometimes. In my case,
Yeah,
David
it's
Fincher.
so true. It's so true. I think I read you said something like it feels better because it's a version of the person and it's David's version of her as well. Were you nervous about working with him? Because you must have heard the fact that he does multiple takes and yeah, how did you feel about it?
I was like so intimidated by meeting him. Even we were meeting on Zoom, and it was just the first time I used Zoom, and I know he's incredibly smart. I had all these ideas and things that I wanted to say to him, and as soon as I sat down opposite him, and so I finally got the opportunity to, explain where I was at with the story and, what I drew from reading, about Marion and Mank, and ended up being fine. And yes, he does a lot of takes and all that, and it definitely helps. I mean, he does get brilliant performances out of people because he gives them time and space.
And I always wondered what at what point you feel in that stage of however many takes where you feel really free and you feel like does it incite like massive relaxation at one point, where you just go, I know I've got loads of takes so I can just play, or how is that?
When you have a huge set piece and a lot of actors and a lot of dialogue, you're doing it for about a week, 4 days, and there's always a point at which when the camera's on me where I feel like I found the moments that I wanted to find, and then I feel really comfortable. But until I get there, 15, 20, I don't feel good, and that impedes like my energy, and that becomes an issue, which is why I need the more takes, the better.
Well, as they say in the Bronx, make yourself to home, Mr. Mankiewicz, or shall I call you Herman?
No, please, call me Mac.
And so about Gary, how was it to work with him? Because you've worked with him before, right?
Yeah, Gary Oldman is just as present as anybody can be, playing a person who's so vastly different than Gary in a lot of ways, and also, Gary is as funny, I think, as Herman Mankiewicz.
It felt so real between you both.
Gary is the perfect person to work with because he's not precious. Nothing precious about him. If he's feeling insecure or frustrated or he can't remember a line or whatever it is that frustrates the hell out of people, it goes in and it goes out. You don't have to touch him with kid gloves or walk on eggshells around him. He moves on from the moment and just stays present, and it's really amazing.
So you knew it was black and white, presumably. And so was there any difference in filming that?
I would forget. I would walk off set and catch a glimpse of the monitor, and it's all in black and white because David Fincher shot it in black and white. There's no color version of this movie, or at least not yet. It didn't feel like there was anything to enhance for the sake of a black and white movie.
It's about you having to face this.
I am facing this. I am facing it. I am facing this.
Well, I don't think you are. We need some justice here.
No, you need. That is what you want. That is what you need. That is your way. That is not my way. That is what you need.
Did you do multiple takes, or did you feel like you were was it quick? How much time did you have with all these scenes?
God, I can't remember actually how many days we had, but I think we had about 23, so not many.
Oh my God.
And it was a really, it was low budget, and in that way, I guess you just have to go. Is that weird feeling, isn't it? Of we have to get this, or else it won't work.
Tell me about the birth scene. I know everybody's asking you about it.
I was going to ask you about your home birth.
I didn't
You
have
had
a home
birth.
birth. No way. Do you know why no home birth? Because of what happened in your movie.
Okay, so for example, the birth, we knew that we only had 2 days to maybe try and remotely even get it right. And we knew we all wanted to do one continuous take. So
You had 2 days to shoot
Yeah.
a 30-minute continuous take of a birth, which felt the realest I've ever seen. It is impossible. I feel like I've given birth in a couple movies. It is impossible to make that feel real, look real, anything. It's so hard to do, and you nailed it. And I want to know how.
I realised that we see so many deaths on screen. We so rarely see a full birth, and that's so weird. That felt really important. I just thought, oh my God, I can't get this wrong, because I don't want to get it wrong for women, you know, and I haven't given birth. So that fear of like needing to get it right and not knowing how to do it, I think meant that I had to basically do everything that I could to try and understand what it's like to do. And so I first started talking to tons of my friends, and, you know, like everyone's birthing story is so different as well. But a lot of my friends were like, I can't quite remember it because it was just such a crazy journey. And so then I started watching every documentary I could possibly find. And even that, there was just, when I finished hours of watching them, I was no further equipped to act it, you know, because it's all edited. It's edited for what people, you know, people can handle, I guess. And at that point, then I got really scared, and I realized that I would have to, I just had in myself, I was like, I think I really need to see someone do it for real. I just thought, I don't know how on earth anyone would ever agree to let some random person, you know. So I started writing to lots of obstetricians, and there was this amazing woman called Claire Mellon, who said, look, just come and shadow me and the midwives on the labour ward. And so I spent many days learning about, you know, the positions and like all the science behind it and everything, and sort of felt a little bit better. But then it was just one afternoon. It was my last afternoon in the labour ward, and a woman came in, and she was 9 centimetres dilated, and one of the midwives said, I'm going to go and ask her if she'd mind you being there. And I thought, there's just no way. Why the hell would she want me there in a room in her most like sacred moment? But she said yes, which was a complete miracle. And so I sat in my scrubs and like next to her and just watched her for 8 hours go on this like amazing trip. It just blew my mind. Like, every woman that's done it, I'm just like completely in awe of, because it was just incredible. And without being in the room with her, watching her, there's no way that I could have even begun to act it, because I just would have felt so phony, because I would have been imagining, pretending, hoping for the best, probably doing things that don't really happen, you know. We sort of like mapped it out, but didn't really rehearse it, and then we just had 2 days to try and hope for the best, really. And we did 4 takes the first day, 2 the second. I think, yeah, I used the 4th take in the movie.
It felt so real, and I think it's even more amazing that you didn't have to go through it, like to give birth, to play that. You know what's real, and you know how to find the reality in something, to base it in as much reality as possible without doing it. It was just like, it was beautiful, and that's what I look for. That's what a lot of people look for when they're watching movies. They want a story to feel as real as possible without being real.
The amount of takes that you had, did that not have the same effect, where you were like, okay, so I know that we can do this for 4 days, so if I'm not getting it now, it's okay, because I might feel, you know, in the afternoon it will probably come to me.
I remember a day when the cameras were on me. Like, there were, I think, 2 cameras at that point on me from 2 different angles, and we'd worked for an hour or 2 on that, in this huge scene with many people, and just the dialogue cutting in and out, and just trying to remember when your line comes in. I thought we were done, and it was lunchtime, and I was just so relieved, because I wanted to move on from my stuff so I can really get comfortable in the scene. But then we came back after lunch, and I saw the cameras were still looking at me, and my first reaction was like, why are they still? Did we not get this?
Help! Someone save me!
I don't know why it's always going to be that way, and I guess that's okay, because I had time to find those moments. I never went to bed at night thinking, God damn it, you know. So that was, and I do a lot of that when I'm, you know, in my career. I've had a lot of moments where I just felt complete regret. I wish I could redo Les Mis completely, because the whole like live singing aspect, just I still have nightmares about it. But
you're an amazing singer, though. And so did you not feel like, in a way, I mean, how different is that to acting?
It's almost, it's more indulgent in some ways. Like, if you ever feel like, I feel like when I have emotional scenes when I get to really cry, and I actually cry and I actually feel whatever I'm feeling, and it works, and I can be present in that, it always feels really good and cathartic, because crying is really cathartic. Singing is the same way. Just like emoting through music and melody is so magical when you feel like you've really gotten, like, you're there, your voice is where it needs to be and as strong as it needs to be. And it wasn't. I was very weak. I feel like I definitely could play Cosette now. With I've been working diligently ever since Les Mis to perfect, or not perfect, but really to work on strengthening my voice and to have some kind of stamina, and working on my vibrato, which was just completely lost. So yeah, no, from a very technical standpoint, I was very unhappy with my singing.
That's so crazy, because to me it sounds like incredible.
Thanks.
That would terrify me. Singing like that in front of a big group of people live would terrify me. I think I would get a lot of shame, a lot of 11-year-old shame, you know. So how do you relax?
It's not a conscious effort to feel comfortable. I think it goes into how prepared I am, knowing all the lines, knowing the blocking, and feeling comfortable with my scene partner. It's pretty common that I forget that it's there, or that I can forget for moments that it's there. But it's definitely more comfortable than being on stage, which is funny because there's no cameras. There's just like hundreds, maybe 1,000 set of eyes watching you. I'm so much more comfortable on a film set.
I think it's where you find your comfort zone early, isn't it? I did plays for so long. I guess I got less nervous there, and I hadn't done any screen stuff, and I was doing theatre for quite a few years, and then started screen stuff, and I just didn't have a clue. I can understand why you had to stay in a certain frame, you know, because you could always just go anywhere on stage. So it was like a whole different world, and it took me ages to feel relaxed and comfortable.
That makes sense, because you're also relying on so many people to do their job correctly in order to do a scene from start to finish, too. Like you hitting your mark, like all the other things that you don't have to worry about on stage.
In the moment, whereas on stage, once you're on, and then you've got no choice.
Very sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
Like, how did you prepare to experience that level of grief that nobody ever wants to have to experience in their lives? Like, what place did you come from to show that grief in this context and still manage to give us hope at the end? Like, what was that like?
I knew that I had to speak to women who had been through this, and it really quickly became about them in a way. The whole movie was always about them for me, really, because them telling their stories about their babies that they had lost in many different stages was really hard for them, because it's really hard to talk about in society, and there's this weird silence around all of it. But for me, I couldn't believe how ignorant I was about how often it happens, and how, that very female experience. And I was really quite shocked to learn about how little support there is, and general conversation and openness around it. And so then I felt this huge responsibility.
Why are you trying to disappear my kid?
Because we don't have a kid. There was one woman in particular, Kelly, who lost her baby Luciana, and she doesn't mind me talking about her because she's like really, really part of the film. I spent many days with her, and I knew that I had to understand how she felt more than anything, you know? And she said it's a bit like standing on top of, imagine you're standing on the top of the tallest mountain, like on the top of Everest or something, and the wind is just kind of like screaming past you, and you're trying to scream, and nothing's coming out because the wind is kind of rushing past you, and you look down at the world, and everyone's just carrying on as if nothing's happened and everything's normal, you know. And so it's that level of kind of isolation and loneliness. I just kind of had to make sure that I felt that every day.
Martha, if you had done it my way, you'd be holding your baby in your arms right now.
You know what? You're ashamed. You're so ashamed of me. You're ashamed because I failed. Oh, what a disgrace. Oh, what a disgrace. I failed.
How did you feel when you wrapped it? Like, did it take a while for you to, be done with her, with Martha? Like,
It did actually. It's weird. I didn't think it would, but also, we finished filming this like a week before the pandemic hit. So I got back to London and then we were literally in lockdown. So it was quite surreal. And I think I had a lot of the feelings of the movie that I'd sort of stayed in for a couple of months, and I just had to let them leave, and that was really tough to sort of sit with them and not be able to just distract or just go about life a bit. I felt this kind of real heaviness. I've been thinking about it a lot, actually. It's someone once said to me that the psyche doesn't know any different between when you're pretending to do something or you're really doing something.
This is about my life. This is me.
I have to ask you about Mean Girls because was Mean Girls was that your first film?
yeah, it was like
That
stepping.
that must have been so crazy for that to be your first movie, because that literally
Yeah.
was like a phenomenon. Did you know when you were doing
Nobody
it? that it
knew. No. It felt like an extended SNL. It just felt like 2-hour version of SNL. Not that it was broken up in skits, but that a lot of because it was produced by Lorne Michaels and starring Tina and written by Tina, and it just felt like just another SNL comedy. And I had no idea. I never had any expectations of anything. I was just glad to be working as an actor, getting paid to speak actual dialogue as opposed to be, in the background. Everything was a miracle at that point. I was 17. God, what? I'd just done some soap operas, and so I only knew one very specific genre, one medium, being shooting an episode a day of this soap opera that I just hitting my mark, and all these other bells and whistles that I'd never seen before. It just felt really daunting and exciting, and I think I was too excited to be nervous. My audition was Marilyn Monroe from Some Like It Hot. Like, I just used that in my audition. So I was like, she's smarter than she looks. But Karen wasn't. I don't even know. It was on the page. She's an idiot, but so believes in everything she's saying. Like, she's just guileless. She's just like, she feels things very, very deeply, but doesn't really feel like she needs to know that much in order to enjoy herself. So there was a line in the original Mean Girls script that didn't make it to set, and it was Rachel says to Gretchen, well, we're just going to tell Coach Carr that Karen's pregnant. And I'm like, I am? Because she just took it at face value. She's like, oh my God, I'm pregnant. I didn't know. And it was to me just so funny, because she's just like,
was it as fun to do? The whole thing, was it as fun to do as it was to watch?
to play somebody who's kind of out to lunch is so much more fun than I could have imagined. That's why I want to do it. I want to continue doing it, like Goldie Hawn.
I'm kind of psychic. Really? It's like I have ESPN or something.
The last movie you did was Pieces of a Woman, and now you're doing Mission Impossible 7, right? There's no other movie between?
No, just the pandemic.
What is it like, being on set where you have all those COVID protocols, people are masked, I don't even know what the things that you have to do in this movie, like, please explain that.
It's a lot of protocols, yeah. I mean, my sister's an AD, which I loved, and I worked with her a couple of times. It's so amazing. It's so amazing. But anyway, she went back really early, so she went back in the summer onto a job, and so I knew from her what it was going to be like, just adjust day by day and try and accept and surrender to it all, really. And so honestly, I think the feeling on set is the fact that we're even making a film is amazing.
What are you having to do every day? Like, what is your role? Like right now, like
I don't know.
I'm just picturing you flying through the air at some point.
No, none of that actually yet. I've only worked in the studio here so far. I know that they've been in Venice and they're in Norway filming, and I think they're going to Abu Dhabi. I don't know. It's so dependent on where's possible to shoot, where's not, all those sorts of things. And they're working so hard to like assess all the time because stuff changes so quickly. I mean, I wasn't in Venice, but they were there when they just got there. They were just about to shoot, and then they had to leave that afternoon, I think, because that's when the virus came to Italy. So
I think it's wonderful that we've, as a society, as a culture, everybody's been able to adapt for the most part and to keep most things moving. And it's so wonderful for people to be able to go to work.
how has this time been for you this whole year? Have you worked this year? No. You gave birth this year, right?
Yeah, that definitely felt like pregnancy and birth felt like a job. No, it felt like it definitely usurped all of my energy and my time. I'm not in a hurry to get back, but there's definitely some compartmentalizing that I do naturally now. But just for survival, I definitely used to take my work home with me much more often when I was in my 20s.
Is that why you're on the farm? It must be so amazing. I was thinking about it a lot. It must be so nice to just come home and to just be completely away from anything to do with acting or film or whatever, and to be with your kids and your goats and your dog. That is the key, isn't it, really, to have a life completely outside of it, so that
it feels safer to not be in the middle of Hollywood, being in northeast and having the Four Seasons and being able to just, I don't know, feel like you're part of it, as opposed to coming from this place that feels like it's separate from the rest of the country. Like, it's nice to have things that are more like perspective and have things that are a bigger priority. I mean, children definitely give you that, like, you don't have any choice, but I have to go feed him. I have to drop everything. And that's wonderful. But I had that before children because I still had to wake up and feed these animals at a certain point. It's grounding. It's very grounding. There's a snowstorm and you gotta fucking pick up a shovel.
okay.
Lots of thank you so much. I'm so glad we get to